Eminent Taitague Legislature in Guam is called to order for this 8th special session. Buenas and good morning, colleagues. Assistant Majority Leader, Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I move to adopt today's 8th special session agenda dated August 9, 2024.
On the motion to adopt the agenda, is there any objection?
Madam Speaker,
Seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I move to waive special session agendas items 2 through 6.
There's a motion to waive items 2 through 6, the prayer, the recognition of Imalazan Mastakilu, reciting of the Inifresi, the singing of the hymns. Is there any objection to that motion? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. We're now on roll call. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Senator Barnett, Senator Blas, Senator Brown, Senator Dueñas, Senator Fisher, Senator Lujan, Vice Speaker Munya Barnes, Senator Parkinson, Senator Perez, Senator Kanata, Senator San Augustine, Senator San Nicolas, Senator Shelton, Senator Taitague, Speaker Terlahi. Madam Speaker, there is a quorum.
Sidus Masi, Clerk. Assistant Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, I move to approve the Legislative Journal dated March 12, 2024, 7th special session, subject to correction.
On that motion, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. Assistant Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Notwithstanding the House rule, I move to waive special session agenda item 9.
There's a motion to waive communications and petition. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. Assistant Majority Leader, Senator San Augustine, you are recognized.
Madam Speaker, I would like to advise the members of the message from Imagahaga and Guam specific to the call to the special session and move that the message from the Imagahaga and Guam be appended to today's special session journal.
On that motion to append the message from Imagahaga and Guam to our journal, are there any objections? Seeing no objections, that motion carries. If there are no objections, and the Acting Legislative Secretary, Barnett, will you please read the message from Imagahaga and Guam into the record?
Sidus Masi, Madam Speaker, Manana Sidus to the people of Guam and everyone watching, Biba Betness. The message from the governor reads as follows. Hafade Speaker Terlahi, on August 7, 2024, the Guam Education Board declared a state of emergency for the Guam Department of Education, acknowledging that Guam public schools are in a state of disrepair such that many of them are not likely to pass health inspections required by law in order to open for the upcoming school year. While some of these schools suffer from lack of maintenance that may be remedied by a temporary infusion of manpower and resources, others require more serious structural renovation and rehabilitation. The lack of accountability and clear workable solutions has caused substantial anxiety and uncertainty for our students, families, teachers, and staff. Unfortunately, GDOE's difficulties are entrenched and persistent. GDOE draws substantial funding for both local and federal governments, but it has been plagued with long-standing staffing, procurement, and administrative challenges that have hindered the agency's efforts to maintain and operate our public schools, resulting in the deterioration of school campuses. There should be no doubt that there are tremendously talented and dedicated people who work at GDOE, teachers, administrators, and staff, but the protracted discussions over the last few weeks have proven that the current system is not working. We teach our students to learn and adapt. As a government, we would also benefit from this lesson. As you are aware, prior to 1986, the Organic Act of Guam vested the governor of Guam with the authority and responsibility to establish, operate, and maintain public schools. The 1986 amendments transferred these powers away from the governor, authorizing the legislature to enact laws to govern our public schools. As the Senate report for the 1986 amendment observes, this structure did not preclude the legislature from delegating authority over public schools back to the governor. In this spirit, I submit to the legislature the attached legislation, which, if passed, will grant me authority over GDOE for the remainder of my term as governor. While I recognize that the task ahead is immense, it is not insurmountable. These problems are solvable. It is in the best interest of our schools and our larger island community that the person holding responsibility for our public schools be clearly established, and great as I know the challenge will be, I am willing to accept such responsibility for the benefit of our island. The letter is to notify you that pursuant to the authority vested in me by the Organic Act of Guam under 48 U.S.C. subsection 1423H, I hereby call a special session of Imina 37 na Legislature in Guahan to commence at 10 a.m. on August 9, 2024 at the Speaker Antonio R. M. Pinco Legislative Session Hall in the Guam Congress Building to consider and vote upon the attached legislation. In accordance with 2 GCA subsection 1104, this session shall be designated as the 37th Guam Legislature 8th Special Session. Sinceramente, Lourdes A. Leon Guerrero, Magahagan, Guahan.
Jesus Masi, Acting Legislative Secretary. Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rule, I move to waive special session agenda items 11 and 12.
There's a motion to waive reports of standing committees and reports of select committees. Is there any objection to that motion? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, I move that bill introduced, bill number 2, in parentheses 8-S, be deemed to have been given its first reading.
On that motion, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. Assistant Majority Leader, wait. We're now under motions. Assistant Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to excuse senators not present for today's legislative session.
There's a motion to excuse senators not present. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. We're under motions. Assistant Majority Leader, you're still recognized.
Madam Speaker, notwithstanding the House rule, I move to place Bill 2, in parentheses 8-S, on the special session agenda.
On that motion to place 2-8-S onto the agenda, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. We're still on motions. If there are no other motions, Assistant Majority Leader, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now,
Senator Sinicolas, you're recognized under motions.
Yes, ma'am. I motion to place 317 on for reconsideration.
I'm going to call that motion out of order. We're here on special session call of the governor. I think we're restricted to address the bill that she sent down.
Okay.
Assistant Majority Leader, you are recognized.
thank you, Madam Speaker. Notwithstanding the House rule, I move to waive special session agenda items 15 and 16.
On that motion to waive legislative concurrence and consent calendar, is there any objection? Seeing no objection, that motion carries. We're now on the second reading, and under second reading, we have one bill. That is Bill number 2, 8-S. So the bill that the governor sent down has been numbered now to Bill number 2, 8-S. On this bill, is there anyone who would like to make a motion to place it on the third reading so that we can discuss it?
Madam Speaker, I'll move to make a motion that we move it to third reading and open for discussion by the body.
All right. Would you like to proceed with discussion, Senator San Agustin?
Yes. Well, I'd ask if anyone else would like to speak first, being the majority leader. I'll speak towards the end. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? Or let's take a 1-minute recess. We'll take a 1-minute recess to review the bill and we'll come back. We're back from recess. So on the bill, as introduced by the Committee on Rules by request of Imaga Hagan Guahan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. The title was not read. I'm going to read the title. It's an act to grant Imaga Hagan Guahan temporary authority over the Guam Department of Education. On the bill, we are now going to have discussion pursuant to the motion made by the Majority Leader. Senator Taitague, you're recognized on the bill.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues. Well, just when we thought we were done, we get called back in to an emergency session in which, if I'm not mistaken, the governor said on an interview recently, why are these all so many emergency sessions, so many, calls to emergency? And now she's calling us into emergency right after we ended the debate 2 days ago where we had her liaison come before us to tell us that they're willing to assist with the schools. First I want to thank the governor. I want to thank the governor for recognizing that she is needed. But to do it like this, to give her full power, it makes you question what the intentions are. She has the authority right now to mobilize her resources to the schools. It doesn't need a bill. If I'm not mistaken, even Governor Calvo, during the time when schools were trying to get open, he not only mobilized his resources under his agencies, but he forced his cabinet member to take their time on weekends to come out and paint and do what they can to get the schools up and running. It was all hands on deck. And I think at the end of our session, emergency session a couple days ago, it was clear, all hands on deck. I was reading an article of a group that was formulated by the governor's office, where the acting governor, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, in February, had everybody sitting on this table, even GPA, GWA, other people I didn't recognize in the picture. I don't know if any of my colleagues had an opportunity to read the paper and see that article. I'm sure everybody else is going to read it. The people of Guam who are watching us right now, please look at the paper today and you'll see that article and what transpired. And then you wonder, well, if they all got together umpteen months ago, then why isn't anything done? Because nothing was mobilized. Now, I listened to the radio this morning where Dr. Swanson was on the air with Patty, and the question was asked, Dr. Swanson, point blank, do you need this bill? Of course, he was a very nice individual. He's very careful on his words. And he kind of skirts around it because he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. In the meantime, Patty is very anxious to say, oh, yes, you want this bill, right? Yes, you want this bill. But he did not say that. He appreciates the governor coming in and helping out. He said the bill was not needed. But what was needed was the governor's help in making available the resources that she has. So that was clear. Then we're talking about now the board. Mary Okada was on the air as well. In fact, it would be ironic if we could all just listen to the recording of the conversation this morning. And we can see where everybody stands, the board as well as the superintendent, where they stand. But what is questionable here today, my good colleagues, is where does the governor stand in helping DOE and helping get our students into a safe environment, a safe school, and the faculty and staff of DOE? Where does she stand What's obvious, this bill means I want the power, because if I don't get the power, I'm not going to help. Is that what she means? I hope not. Oh my goodness, I hope not. We have an education czar, former Speaker Judy Wampat. She actually held the Committee on Education. I see her trying to do her best. In fact, at a funeral, it was mentioned that at a funeral, she saw some of the National Guard individuals and asked them, can we get your help, your labor, help us get these schools up and running? And they said, absolutely, just provide us with the overtime pay and provide us with the materials needed to do so. Okay, that's good. That's the National Guard. Okay, we talked about trying to get more inspectors because we know that's really the bottleneck. Public health is only really putting out, what, four individuals to do these inspections because they're busy doing other inspections for other businesses. I'm sorry, my colleagues, if I have to keep repeating this, but maybe some of us need reminding. We went through this for almost 2 weeks on what is needed. So going back to that, we've got the National Guard. Now we can maybe go to GURA to get some of their inspectors to bring them to Department of Public Health to assist them. And then we have DPW, who also do inspections as well. So we're covering that. And the one big question my colleagues asked, how much money, Dr. Swanson, do you need to repair these 18 schools that are yet to be put into place? He said, well, we can do about, if we had the ability to do $1 million per school, up to $1 million per school. And then what happened after that, my colleagues? They went into an emergency board meeting with Department of Education and did a resolution, and now they are in emergency procurement. Do you, Dr. Swanson, have the $18 million, was one of my colleagues asked. And he said, yes. Yes. So they've got the money. They're doing the plan. What they need is they've got the procurement now, the emergency procurement. So all they need now is the resources from the government of Guam. You know, it would have been nice, too, if the governor can call the admiral and ask for assistance there, because they got about 500 electricians, 500 plumbers there. Maybe we can ask the federal side to come help us. I know they're doing the military buildup. I mean, they brought all these individuals in for the buildup. Wow, maybe we can make a deal with them to ask them if we can use some of their resources. There are options, Madam Speaker, now. And according to the Czar of Education, she says that they're willing to do what they can to assist. So we all left here 2 days ago thinking, okay, we've dragged this back and forth, dragged the superintendent back and forth, public health back and forth. We're leaving here knowing that the Czar of Education on the governor's side is going to help us and provide the resources DOE needs to get these schools up and running, these 18 schools. So why are we here? Why? Okay, so everybody had a chance to answer that themselves in their head, and those who were watching. They came to their assumption. I've come to mine. Thank goodness, to me right now, thank goodness nobody's here on the Committee of the Whole, I mean, it would have been nice to have the governor here to answer some of our questions. But I believe I heard that, it was requested and nobody's coming down. So do this, or you all can go to the side of the road. Do this bill. It's the only thing I can think of. They don't even want to talk. Just do this bill. Give me the power. And I'm pretty sure we all recall what happened when an administrator took the power of DOE and why we incorporated the way the DOE is standing right now with the board, policy board, and a superintendent. We did not want to be political. We did not want this to be political. And today, my good colleagues and those who are listening, this bill just made it political. Not about the children, not about getting the schools up and running to put a safe environment. This bill just became political. And I know each and every one of us in this body wants to see our children in a safe environment and the staff and teachers in a safe environment. I know each and every one of you want that. But the question is now, are you willing to jeopardize this and make it political? Or really make it about the children? I ask my colleagues, please, don't do that. Let's stay focused. And those who are rubbing elbows with the governor, those colleagues that are rubbing elbows with her, I humbly ask you, please, just tell the governor to mobilize her resources to the Department of Education now, regardless if this bill gets through or not. Please, please ask her to utilize her resources because she has it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Tijusmasi, Senator Taitague. On the bill, is there anyone else who'd like to be recognized on the bill? Senator Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Kind of hard to follow Senator Tello this morning with her very direct, concise points that I also share. We've seen, for those of us that have been around long enough, we've all seen the challenges the Department of Education has gone through over the years, including when the Department of Education was under the oversight of the Governor of Guam. And I also appreciate the efforts of the Governor to want to step forth, but I don't think the means under which she has offered us or offered the people of Guam and our school children is really going to be that effective. Because we recognize certainly the procurement issues the Department of Education is going through. I mean, we have an emergency. Hopefully that will help facilitate it. But it's really about the power at the end of the day, the power over the school system. And I don't think that's necessary to return back to this governor or any future governor. If anything, we do have an elected school board. I know sometimes we forget them, but there they are, elected by the people. And right now, what we need is to ensure that the physical maintenance of these facilities are addressed. And while it has been a very long, Madam Speaker, and a very, very challenging process, hand-holding, meeting on a monthly basis, I certainly give our education chairman credit at his patience. For those of us that have sat in with him at these hearings, because you're like, wow, do we really need to hold your hand to learn how to operate and address your operations? I mean, goodness, as I've said often, if this was me and I was in that seat and I was having my hand held to do my job, it would not be a chair I would be sitting in. But here we are. And we know that these schools need to be addressed, the maintenance need to be addressed, some bigger projects of repair that have not been dealt with in a number of years need to be addressed. But while the process is not facilitating as quickly as certainly I and many of us, I'm sure our parents out there and our school students want to see, there's finally a little bit of light. It's not blinding me yet, but it's getting there. And I know it's not as fast as everyone wants because children were supposed to be in school. Our public school kids were supposed to be in school as of yesterday. And yet we had hundreds of students in the private school, in the charter school, and where are they right now at this moment? They're in school. And that's not the case, unfortunately, for our public school children. But handing this over, and I thought about this when we received the notice last night, I thought about this, and I thought, is this the solution? Because this is a lot of political positioning, Madam Speaker. We see it. If this bill doesn't pass, then the governor can say, Umbine, but I tried. And Chairman Chris, I offered, and you didn't take it. So what can I do? The senators objected. And I think we all agree that what we had asked, what we would have wanted to see was the support of the administration, as many of us who have been, and I've worked for 2 governors, and I know what it's like, man. I get on the roof, like I said, I've been on the roof with Simon Sanchez. We've been down south scraping paint, painting, cleaning, bush cutting. And thank God I know how to bush cut, not just you boys. I got my shindawa, which I'll be using this weekend. But we've all had to spend the time. That was, this is part of the job. We got to get out there and help the schools get ready for school. And now here we are all these years later, and apparently the challenges are bigger, and the key people and the key players in the Department of Education over the years, for whatever reason, because I'll tell you, I don't see anybody not taking their paycheck every 2 weeks, have allowed these things to slide. And the excuse is, we didn't have the money. No, we just didn't prioritize. As anyone who's run a department, I know a number of my colleagues here have. You get a budget and you figure out how to make it happen with what you got. Not the explanation we hear frequently these days is, I don't have enough personnel, I don't have enough money. I thought, my goodness, I could have skipped getting 2 college degrees and I could have qualified for that job if that's all I got to say. That's why I can't do my job. That's why I haven't been able to do my job. That's why I'm not going to be able to do my job. And unfortunately, this administration seems to accept that as an explanation. Then I thought about it again last night. I thought, wow, what's the status of our hospital? Governor has a lot of direct purview over the hospital. We even had a former governor came in and took over the hospital. And what's the status of that today? Now, maybe the Guam Memorial Hospital is operating stellar. We'd say, yee, sure, Gov, wow, if you can go in and do that miracle, we should give you Department of Education. But where are we? Is our public hospital accredited? We know our private hospital is accredited. Our private hospital operates with less employees. But I wonder how many patients they've had recently in comparison to GMH that has several hundred more employees. How directly related everything is to patient care, I'm sure we'd have to go down the list. But that's not where we would hope it to be. That is not what the governor promised when she ran for office 6 years ago. I'm a nurse. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm a wife, I'm a banker, but there was an expectation, certainly I did, that health care would, it's going to go up because she knows, she's very experienced. I don't question her credentials in her health care field. Heck, she used to keep us in line and check our diet and make sure we had our good blood pressure on the session floor. But ladies and gentlemen, is that the case today? Is our hospital better? Is our public health services, are they better? Do we have the same level of outreach that we did before they marched out of the Mangilo building? public safety? Is public safety better, my dear people out there? You feeling comfortable these days? Feeling safe? Maybe you can if you don't read the newspaper, listen to the news or the radio. Look at the list of crimes every single day. Who's really safe on Guam? Anything better today, 6 years later? And now the governor's asking us that the ultimate solution here to address the challenges of the Department of Education is simply turn over the Department of Education to the governor of Guam. And the governor of Guam's going to make it all better. You believe that? DOE is not perfect. I have no reservation, and I have not had reservations saying I think the structure is just too big to be effective. Too many finger pointing back and forth as to why things have not been done or why they're not getting done. And yeah, you know, we had previous superintendents that have absolutely excellent evaluations because the board remitted to us, you know, just a couple days ago. Our job is to oversee the superintendent that we hired. Pretty much it. And they were there giving excellent evaluation. Gosh, we heard a big news press release. We got to write the press release. Exceptional performance. And the moment that superintendent left and the curtains came down, wow, we had all these long-standing problems. Lack of maintenance, my goodness, restroom facilities that are absolute necessities for all of us every single day, not being maintained. Classrooms not being maintained, air conditioning systems that were not being maintained. Physical infrastructure that, you know, could have been an earthquake, whatever age, whatever the case may be, not being repaired. And before the explanation was, Madam Speaker, oh, well, we don't have the money, honey. No money. We have no money to repair this. And then when we had money, you know, falling out of the sky like rain, we can't possibly process all of this. We just have all this money and we don't have the capability of processing and procuring. That's why we can't move all this money. Really? Esta Day, we didn't need a degree to get to that? Seriously? I thought none of us are happy today. None of us are jumping up and down about the status of where public education is. We do know we see other institutions on Guam that are doing it for far less. And Madam Speaker, we're not even talking about overall test scores. If my glasses and my contacts helped me read the paper the other day, the statement from the superintendent that 70%, did I get that right? Did I see a 7 and a 0? Was it just a 7? I'd like to think it was just a 7, but I think it had a 0 behind it. 70% of our students are not meeting the minimum requirements? Really? We're not even talking about that, and really all of this is to ensure that our children in the classroom are getting well educated and that they're getting the education, the skill set that's going to prepare them for their future. We're not even talking about that. We're just talking about the physical infrastructure of these schools to make sure that they're safe for our children and our teachers and our school support staff to come in and do the important work that they need to do. We're just at the basic level. And granted, there are a lot of challenges. You know, I got that dumbfounded look on my face sometimes when I sit at these hearings because I'm like, wow, that's like GMH telling us, oh, you know, when we don't pay our vendors, we just work with other vendors. I'm like, really? Like Guam is so big and there's a whole line of vendors out there that want to stand in line and provide their service or provide their products and their medicines and everything else they need to the hospital so they can stand in line and not get paid. And this is the best we have to offer the people of Guam. You know, you look, Madam Speaker, at all the money, the hundreds of millions and millions of dollars that have gone through this government in the last few years, and I ask myself, I'm sure the people out there ask themselves, where is it all and what is better? And some of you say, hey, Senator Brown, you're just trying to give the governor a hard time because you don't like the governor. I don't dislike the governor. Actually, she's a friend of mine. I served with her many years on the floor of this legislature. Her, Judy, and I, we even had our own singing group. What I'm disappointed is the performance. Because I see it in other critical areas of the government that the governor herself campaigned that she would make even better. And that's not where I see we are today. So with all the challenges and imperfections of the Department of Education that so disappoint many of us, I know it disappoints me because I spent 9 years in public school on Guam. Majority of my education is right here, homegrown. And I had a great time in public school. I never wanted to be one of those kids in the private school. They were kind of stuck up to me. And then again, I went to Infant of Prague, and then, the nuns were kind of strict, and they made you take afternoon naps and drink milk, and I didn't like doing either one. So I never wanted to be in private, especially private Catholic school, even though in the last several years of my education, that's where I chose to go. And I loved it. And I'm disappointed that we can't see that today for our school kids. Because I never sat in class wondering, oh, I don't have the resources, I don't have a good teacher, my school's falling apart. I didn't experience that as a public school student. I loved being in public school. We were cool. Wearing our earth shoes, and back then carrying our cassette players. And I don't know, but we wore those, log shirts. That was the in thing too. I don't know why, but we copied it here when it was tremendously hot on Guam. But I enjoyed it. And I think that's something we want for our children. At the same time, we want them to get well educated and prepare them for their future. So unfortunately, Madam Speaker, while the governor has made this offer to take over the school system and essentially tell us that this is a solution, is to simply hand it all over to her and make her run it because she's going to make all these things happen that haven't happened, I have my reservations with regards to this proposal. More than likely will not be voting, I guess you can gather from my comments, in favor of this bill. But I don't think this should keep us from keeping on top of Department of Education and ensuring that they are taking and making every step they need to do under their power and authority to get these schools open and get our children back into the classroom. With that, Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this bill.
Sidil Masi, Senator, on the bill. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the bill? On the bill? Vice Speaker, you're recognized on the bill.
Madam Speaker, I'm working on several amendments right now because I really want to try and see how we can work together as one team for our children. And as I look at the presentations before us and what has been said, I think it's only fair and fitting that I ask this August body to reconsider what I think should happen, right? And somebody's asking for somebody, you try and see where their justification is coming from, why they want to do it, what is being said. So with that, I was going to ask for some time so that I can finish my amendments, but I think it's only proper that I don't know if it's notwithstanding provision or move back and ask for a motion for the committee of the whole and call the governor down and call her liaison or czar, education czar, and whoever else we want to come in, because I think it's important as we hear the comments from our colleagues. Really, what are we doing here? If the statute specifically says that this administration or the governor does not have that authority right now, what is it going to take for that? Are we willing to look at what is before us today without even getting a fair justification on why it is truly needed, because I think there are a lot of valid points that can be looked at. And I've always said, as a team player, right, let's listen to all the sides. And even last week when we went through this process, I said, bring everybody in, so nobody says she said, he said kind of thing. So right now, I think I'm asking for two things. One, give me a little time to finish my amendments, just looking at the bill that's presented before me. And the first one would be a motion to move, notwithstanding, into a committee of the whole and ask that the governor and the czar and whoever else this body wants to come in and to share their perspective of why they want this, because why the authorization is necessary. I would also invite the chair of the education board and the superintendent, because those are the key players that literally will be directing the policy and the direction on making sure that these schools get open. So that is my sincere take, Madam Speaker, is to do this motion for the committee of the whole and invite, like I said, the governor, the czar, the chair, and the superintendent and his team. Thank you. And I also have several amendments that I'm working on. So,
there is a motion to resolve into the committee of the whole and to invite those people who the Vice Speaker mentioned. But as we said earlier, I did invite the governor and asked if she would like to address the body in the committee of the whole today, or would anyone else be coming to lay out her plan under this bill? And the response was that Judy Wampat will be the governor's representative in the committee of the whole. So there is a motion to resolve into the committee of the whole to Majority Leader, you're recognized.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to comment on the request for the committee of the whole. For the past...
There's a motion. It's a motion.
I can comment to that, right? Okay. So the colleagues, the body can understand. I got reservations about the committee of the whole. We did this already for 7-8 days. Let's start with that. The board didn't know what was going on. The superintendent wasn't sharing that information. Maybe it's fortunate for him that I'm not the chairman of the board, like when I was, because that wouldn't have been acceptable. But the same token, the board is not a governing board. It's a policy board. They can't direct anything. That's 2. Number 3, if we're going to go to the committee of the whole, it needs to be very restrictive. I wouldn't ask the whole body to be here like we had for the past 2 weeks or 7 or 8 days. If it's for the czar, Speaker Wampat, to come in here and explain the intent of this bill, I won't have an objection to that. But I don't want to be here all day, all weekend, and all next week when we already know the intent of the body. If the body is not going to accept this bill without amendments, I believe the bill is dead. With amendments, it may see light. Because I've got some problem. I have some questions about this bill. I'm not 100% behind this bill. And I'm the budget guy. So that's my opinion, and it's for the body to decide if we go to committee of the whole, because I don't believe we need to hang around here all day. Thank you.
On the motion for the committee of the whole, Senator Taitague, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I concur with the previous speaker regarding this, but if this body wants to bring Speaker Wampat in, okay, I'm not going to object, we can get some question answered, but in the meantime, if she's not here, can we just continue the conversation, Madam Speaker, and wait until she gets here before going into the committee hall so that everybody can speak and say their 2 cents? So it's an amendment to your motion to continue the conversation, and then when the czar, education czar for the governor comes in, then if we want to go to the committee hall, I'm not going to object to it. I just think that we should continue to the discussion.
There's a motion to amend the motion to go into committee of the whole on that amendment to continue while we are waiting for those people to attend or show up who the vice speaker has requested. On that, is there any objection? There is
Madam
an
Chair,
objection. So on that, Senator Taitague's amendment to the motion to go into committee of the whole, all in favor, please raise your hand.
We're going into the committee of the whole, Madam Speaker?
No, we're voting on the amendment, Senator Taitague's amendment to your motion to go into committee of the whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That motion passes. On the motion to go into committee of the whole and to bring in the entire panel that we had.
No, I didn't say that, Madam
So you
Speaker.
said
Let me
Judy Wampat,
the
the
education
governor,
and the
superintendent,
and
the chair of the Board of Education.
of education.
All right. So on that motion to go to committee of the whole, bring them in, but to continue our discussion while we wait for them to attend on that motion.
Ma'am, I don't know if I'm able to amend that motion, but I'm getting a lot of messages from the members of the Guam Education Board, and should this bill pass, the Education Policy Board will be completely under control of the governor, and we're actually in the middle of an election for these board members, so I'd like to amend the motion to get every board member down here to get their thoughts on this, this bill, ma'am.
All right, there's a motion to amend the motion so that all the members of the Guam Education Policy Board attend. On that amendment, all in favor, please raise your hand. There's no objection. All right. So on the Vice Speaker's amendment to go into Committee of the Whole after we continue discussion, or to go into Committee of the Whole, all in favor? Is there an objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Yes, to go into Committee of the Whole. Motion fails. So, Vice Speaker, you're still recognized on the bill.
Madam Speaker, like I said earlier, I have 3 amendments that I'm working on right now. If you can just, I guess I would continue, but if I could yield my time back so that I could at least work on the amendments. I know I have 14 minutes, but I have 3 amendments that I'm working on. So if you can just give me some time to finish the amendments so it can get uploaded and so I can present it to the body. So if you can circle back to me after everybody else speaks, because I do have several amendments I'm working on.
We can take a 2-minute recess for the amendments. 2-minute recess. We're back from recess. When we left off, Vice Speaker, you had the floor on the bill.
Sidusmasi, colleagues, and Madam Speaker, for giving me some time to finalize my amendments to this bill. I think it's important, even when we are addressing emergency matters, that we allow for sufficient time to weigh a better way forward and consider compromises. And I truly think that this is what we need here, a better way forward through compromises, because I'll be blunt, this bill, for me at least, gives the governor too much unilateral power and grants it to her for far, far too long. And that second issue is over how long of this transfer of power should last. I understand it will be taken up by my good friend from MTM, so I'll address that topic a little bit later, but for now, I'd like to propose an amendment to Section 1. It's labeled as TMB L4 P1 on the session drive. And it reads, notwithstanding Section 1, notwithstanding any other provision of law, effective immediately until January 4th, 2027, all duties, responsibilities, and authority of the Guam Education Board and the Superintendent of Education as provided in Guam law shall be transferred to the Imagahagan Guahan, except duties and responsibilities as authorized related to A, the hiring and discipline of personnel, the administration of federal funds, the selection and evaluation of the superintendent of education, attendance and school boundaries, student discipline. F is the approval and or negotiating for collective bargaining agreements. And G, establishing policies adopted through the Guam Educational Board. I'm sorry, Speaker, I didn't read the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So that's A through G, I'm sorry. And then also to add, to allow legal to make the technical changes and to renumber. So colleagues, the first change is really just to correct the name of the Guam Education Board, and it is currently designated in Guam Code annotated, so the deletion of the word policy on line 4 is really just a technical correction. But the substantive change, Madam Speaker and colleagues, I'm proposing would limit the duties and responsibilities and authority we are transferring to the Magahaga. I do not believe that she should have unilateral authority to hire or fire any Guam Department of Education employee. I also do not believe that she should have the unilateral power to hire a new superintendent should our current one decide to leave during this forced transfer of power. And I do not believe that she should unilaterally control over federal funds, especially given the trouble our local departments has had with the U.S. Department of Education on those monies. So I do not believe she should have the unilateral power to change attendance districts, and I do not believe she should have any negotiating role in the collecting bargaining with our union, Madam Speaker. And I certainly do not believe that she should assume the main duties of the impaneled members of the Guam Educational Board, most of whom, Madam Speaker, were elected or selected among the critical stakeholder groups. For my colleagues in the public, these listed duties were included because they are listed under the statutory powers and duties granted to the superintendent and the Guam Educational Board in our local laws. I'm open to further limiting the transfer of authority to the governor in order to allay the concerns of my colleagues and to assure the families who are served by the Guam Department of Education that this bill is meant to address the delays in opening schools due to inspections and not because we want to give the governor wholesale authority to run the Guam Department of Education until she leaves office. So, Madam Speaker, that was my intent, and I looked at this carefully, and again, I want to thank you for giving me the time to literally look at these several amendments that I'm going to be offering, because it makes good sense. So, si Diyos Masi, I hope my colleagues support the efforts of this train of thought that I'm working with. Si Sana Masi.
On the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to be recognized on the amendment? TMB amendment, line 5, page 1. Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the first part of our amendment, I don't know if it's clear, or actually it's on the bill. And that's going to be addressed later on the length of time. But I am in support of the amendment because the whole intent of getting the governor's office, the administration involved, is to help open the schools. Nothing else. Nothing else. And that's what we've all talked about. And my colleagues have been mentioning, where's the governor? Where's the governor? Here it is. Here it is, folks. Governor's saying, make me in charge. But with the amendments, I'm in full support because, number one, the Board of Education are elected members. They need to be held accountable. It's an election year. They're up for vote. Stay or not stay. Unfortunately, there's only 6 of them running, and there's only 6 candidates, so the people of Guam will decide their fate, not us. And it should not be taken away their duties and responsibility. Just unfortunately, they weren't aware of what was going on, they weren't informed, and that's on them to figure out what they're going to do with the superintendent. But with this, I'm in full support of the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. On the amendment, Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Good morning, and si Diyos Masi, Madam Speaker. I'm not so sure I support this train of thought because this amendment is looking like a train wreck. This section that we're attempting to amend is in direct conflict with the next section, Section 2, which again puts the Guam Education Board and the superintendent under the authority of the governor, and it even allows the governor to dictate the duties and responsibilities of the elected Education Board members as well as the superintendent. The amendment goes further to read, notwithstanding any other provision of law effective immediately until January 4, 2027, all duties, responsibilities, and authority of the Guam Education Board and the Superintendent of Education as provided in Guam law shall be transferred to Imagaogan Guahan. So that says all of the responsibilities, duties, and authorities of the board and the superintendent are now going to be magically transferred into one individual, the governor of Guam. And I would just caution as we get into this bill, which it's a very simple bill that is going to have, if passed, far-reaching impacts, negative impacts, I believe. This amendment leaves the control of the Internal Audit Office. This amendment would put that under the governor of Guam. And the Internal Audit Office is necessary because the Guam Department of Education had worked very hard to get out of a third-party fiduciary status. And one of the conditions of getting out of that status was the establishment and support of an Internal Audit Office. And this bill will put that Internal Audit Office under the governor. this amendment as well. The Head Start program. Also, we were here in the oversight hearings. The Head Start program was in jeopardy of being lost. And it was through the hard work of the board, of the superintendent, with support from the entire department, that went into these Head Start locations across the island and did the hard work to keep that program alive. And this amendment would take the oversight of the Head Start program away from the board and put it under the governor. And so, again, I just want to reiterate my general thoughts on this process is the governor does not need to govern the Guam Department of Education to help our public school kids. She does not need to become the boss of GDOE to help fix our schools. Because last night, the chair of the board, the superintendent of education, met with the governor. And the governor subsequently put out a special address on education in which she said she's already assembling the executive agencies to go out into the schools and help fix our schools. So she doesn't need the authority to run GDOE. GDOE needs help. They don't need to be taken over in a political power grab. Again, there's a little bit of a contradiction in the actions of the governor, she's repeatedly said she doesn't have the authority. But I would just say you don't have to be the boss to help the kids. So rise in opposition to this amendment. Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the amendment? On the amendment? All right, on the amendment, is there anyone else on the amendment? If not, then the sponsor may close on the amendment.
Madam Speaker, if I may, just as a point of information also, is to say that I realize that if we want to do and work together as a team, one team, we need to be able to work compromises out. And this amendment itself gives a lot of the authority back to the board. Because I said myself that the Magahaga shouldn't have unilateral power for everything. And if they wanted to add based on what is still out there that may have missed, they could have added to that. But I'm really hoping that my colleagues will hear me out. We out there saying the governor didn't do this, the lieutenant governor didn't do this, they don't want to help, they don't want. The governor brings something down and then we say, no, we don't want to give it to you. Then, hafa malagot mo. Hafa malagot mo. What do you guys want? We need to take care of our children if that's what it said. And if the governor is going to help and work with the board and work with the superintendent, then give it an opportunity.
Point of information, Madam Speaker, the governor is already working with the board. She's already promised the help to the schools, ma'am. So this bill is pointless.
Madam Speaker, I had the floor to close. Thank you very much.
Vice Speaker, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm just hoping, you know, like I said earlier, I understand that in every time that there's an issue before us, as good parents, right? Sometimes if there's an argument with kids, you bring everybody together. And then you hear both sides. And then you try and come up as a good parent to see what ways that maybe a win or a compromise so that both can be happy. True amicable resolutions, understanding what we as a policymaker has made in the past. I've been here for since 2002. And yes, the administration, the governor then had in the past control of the Department of Education. Then they took it away. And I'm saying that there is a presentation in front of us. And there's an amendment before this body to say, if this is what the governor needs to help these guys out, and this is what the legal team has shared with her, I think that these concerns, that yes, work with her on the authority, except she'll not have the duties and responsibilities and the authority related to all these items. Because that's why we have a board. That's why the board chooses the superintendent. There is fairness across the board. But you cannot say one day, what is the governor doing and the lieutenant governor doing? And then when they bring it up and say, well, now they don't need it. The statute specifically says, Madam Speaker, that the authority does not lie within the governor. And I will bring the point of information and cite the quotation in a minute, but I'm asking my colleagues to help me support this amendment as proffered. Si Diyos masi.
Si Diyos masi. On the amendment, the TMB amendment, is there an objection? There's an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand. Amendment fails. All right. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have this amendment to proffer, and this one will give me some peace of mind that anything we pass will not result in any of our public schools losing their very critical WAS accreditation. And it's on page 2, line 4, to add a new section to the bill to read, Section 5, WAS accreditation. None of the provisions of this act may be implemented until the Guam Department of Education receives official correspondence from the Western Association of Schools and Colleges that implementing the provisions of this act will not jeopardize or penalize a Department of Education school's existing accreditation or an ongoing accreditation effort. This act shall sunset should the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, through official correspondence, states that the provision of this act will have a negative impact on a Department of Education school's existing accreditation or an ongoing accreditation effort, and then to allow legal to make the technical changes and to renumber if necessary. The intent, Madam Speaker, on this amendment is to get directly from WAS whether or not this bill will negatively affect either a school's current accreditation or its pending accreditation. If the bill does no harm, then it can be implemented, but only after WAS says it officially. And if there is a negative effect caused by this bill, then it cannot be implemented at all. Colleagues, I'm pressing this issue because our island holds the distinction of being the first state or the first territory in America to have all of its public schools accredited by WAS, and I do not want to jeopardize that distinction we earned by not bothering to confirm what if unintended consequences we are risking through this legislation. So I hope my colleagues support this one. Sana Masi.
On the amendment, is there anyone who'd like to speak on the amendment? If not, then Senator Barnett on the amendment.
Si Diyos masi, Madam Speaker. For their opportunity to, not so much that I oppose the amendment, but I think it really speaks to the fact that there are a lot of unintended consequences that we're getting into the further we proceed with this bill. What about special education? Is special education now going to be under the authority of the governor? This amendment reads, "This act shall sunset should the Western Association of Schools and Colleges through official correspondence state the provisions of this act will have a negative impact on a Department of Education school's existing accreditation or an ongoing accreditation effort." So we're proceeding forward, and we don't even know if this is going to affect accreditation. But yet we're stepping out on the ledge and saying, oh, we'll walk it back if we get a nasty letter from WASC. Why would we put ourselves in that area of risk when WASC accreditation is one of the bright, shining spots of the Guam Department of Education? Even with the facilities and maintenance issues, they have been able to get fully accredited by WASC. So why would we proffer an amendment and entertain a bill that may jeopardize that? It's reckless, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, Senator San Augustine, on the amendment.
You know, I got a reservation with the previous speaker. We talk about accreditation, we pass. The school passed. Even though we don't have sanitary permit, Bill 317 said open the school's safe. The body failed to pass that. Now we're saying we're putting a provision in the event that the WASP folks says the act will jeopardize accreditation. It kills it. It prevents that damage. Colleagues, go to the education and listen to the board, read the reports, then come to conclusion. Basta mama tum antik of tumaw. Por favor, atano. Take a look at it. I'm in support of this amendment. Thank you.
On the amendment, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the amendment? If not, then the sponsor may close on the amendment. Vice Speaker, you may close on the amendment. Oh.
I know, Madam Speaker, I come up here with possible resolutions to see what we can do, right? I've asked for a committee of the whole. I look at the legislation and laws that have been passed into statute, and I want to be able to try and safeguard those that are already there. And I've even asked that we call the educational czar and others, and that was turned down. And, you know, I just was told that the educational czar is out there, and we can always ask her to come in and speak with her. And I just hope that my colleagues try and understand what we're doing here. On one hand, we say that they're not doing anything, and they haven't said anything, and they're not being honest or what have you. On the other hand, when they say they're going to do something, I don't know. Right now, my heart tells me, Madam Speaker, that we have to listen to our community and our children out there who really deserve a good education. I waved with the students yesterday because they invited me to come with them. And I told them I appreciated their perspective and their communication to the media when they were on the Patty show yesterday morning, that, you know, when the question was asked, who's to blame here? And they said they don't want to put blame on anybody. They just want to see all of us work together They just want us to be able to listen to them. And I really thought that these amendments, or even this amendment that's proffered before us, is just making sure. And it was just to make sure that if it's that if there's any unintended consequences, that this amendment would literally tell us and make sure that this WAS accreditation provision will be safeguarded, and just hope my colleagues support that. I know there's an objection, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
On the amendment, line 4, page 2, there's been an objection. All in favor, please raise your hand of the favor of the amendment. Amendment passes. Vice Speaker, you still have the floor.
Madam Speaker, I did say I had a third amendment, but it was working off of one of the other amendments that was on the drive. So I yield my time back until that amendment gets proffered on the floor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On the bill, is there anyone who'd like to speak on the bill? Majority Leader, you had waived your time to speak. Are you going to speak now on the bill?
I just have an amendment, but I didn't want to, and I want to talk about the bill, but the amendment is my concern, not the bill yet.
All right, we have to do both same time.
Okay, then I'll wait until the other amendments pass.
All right. On the bill, is there anyone who'd like to speak? Senator St. Nicholas, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, this whole process, I just want to vomit. I really want to get the students back in on time. It's just unbelievable what we're doing here, you know. In 1970s, there was a guy who started a company. Everybody knows who he is. He's Steve Jobs. And 10 years later, they kicked him off, and he ended up leaving his company. And it's kind of like the same thing that's happening here with Gov Guam, with the education. Take the powers away from the governor. What happened was, in about 1995, 96, 97, Ample was going down, and it was a tank, and it was going to go bankrupt. What they did was they brought in the chief visionary. They brought him back. And today, we have the iPhone, the iPad, Macintosh, the iMac, all sorts of wonderful things. Why? Because they gave the power back to the guy who needed to do the job and get the job done. Saved Apple. If you bought the stock in Apple in 1997 when they were about to go bankrupt, you would have been a gazillionaire by now. The reason why I'm saying this is because the governor is asking for those types of powers. And the reason why they don't want to give it back to her is because, guess what? She'll be clothed in immense power, and she would be able to make the necessary changes that she would want, and everything would be wonderful. That doesn't work to the political, for anybody here aspiring to be governor. Okay, I said it. But yeah, that's what it is. I want to have these schools open because I understand the value of opening them on time. I'm just about to do anything right now to assist DOE. Anything. Everybody's offering some type of solution, except the person who should be helping us find solutions. Only want to place blame here, there. I don't know what kind of optics you're trying to prove, or what are you trying to do. But we failed to open the schools on time. It's such a shame, you know? I don't know what to tell the kids, you know. It's all politics. I don't care who gets the credit. Just do the right thing. I never thought I'd be up here talking this way. I just wanted to open it for the kids because I see the value it brings to the community. Seniors, you know, I read an article. I don't really do this. I don't really read the news. But I think I should because, you know, they came out in protest because they didn't open schools on time. Do you know how wonderful first day of school is as a senior? And we prevented that. 371, was it? Should have passed on Friday. We came back in to do a reconsideration. It could have passed that day too. But you guys got punked out by the AG telling you about, oh, you know, they scared you guys. And then we're back to square one again. And in all the time that we had, we've never solved anything. If I work like this in my business, oh my goodness. If all I did was complain and complain and complain and offered no solutions, what good is that going to do? I wanted to have more calmer heads prevail. But it doesn't seem like we're going anywhere because one person wants to blame the other, one wants to blame the other, and all the while our kids are suffering because they're not in school. I told you about my stories about the kids who need food. I told you about the kids who don't have electricity at home. My son went through COVID. I was getting ready to get him all the stuff that he needed for prom. And then that happened. And then they went into online learning, and that frustrated everybody. I saw how frustrating that could be for everybody. The teachers, everybody was frustrated. Even I was frustrated. I couldn't believe it. I try never to be frustrated. But here we are again. The governor wants the authority to help the schools, and you don't want to give it to her. She wants the authority so she can do whatever is necessary because all you guys do here is blame her. You know, I'm starting to think maybe I might have made the wrong decision with the governor because all you do is talk bad about her, and I don't think that she deserves this. But we want to become lieutenant governor, we want to become governor. That's what we want to do here. I think it was Senator Parkinson. You don't mind if I say that? He said his father had a sign in his office. Everybody in the legislature wants to become governor. I'm going to tell you right now, except me, I don't want to become governor. So I'm going to stand up here, I'm going to tell you the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the public, my family, all the students out there, everything that you're seeing is about politics. It's all about politics. Who can get number one? Who can get number two? So frustrating. So frustrating. But I'm in a position to help. I'm in a position to be where I can be of service to our people and give them honest service, good, decent service. You know what I loved when I was working down at the port about the Japanese? They took pride in everything they did. Before they docked, the Japanese captain would have his workers paint the boat so when they part, everything looks pretty. They took pride in everything they do. You know, for once, let's take pride in what we do and do the right thing. I would always sit at the concourse at the airport and watch Japan Airlines taxi out. And you know what they do? All the workers would come out and wave the plane goodbye. It was a wonderful thing because they take pride in what they do. Instead of blaming, let's try to work together and bring pride back. So we can all be proud. Proud to open schools on time. Proud because our schools look pretty and everything looks wonderful. You know, I want to say what Senator Joanne Brown said. The last superintendent got flying colors. The only reason why his evaluation, the only reason why I remember is because they said that he was the longest serving superintendent in all the nation. How cool is that? That's so cool. And he was one of the reasons why I actually transferred from customs to the school system. And he asked me, "Are you sure you really want to do that?" I said, "Yes, I really do." But I care so much for the kids, and I care so much for the hardworking teachers and everybody down there who are really working their buns off to get the schools open on time. I don't know, you know. And so once he's gone, the Band-Aid came off. I always said this about government problems. When you have so many people to blame, there's no one to blame. Well, you know what? If you want to blame the governor, well, then give her the authority so that way if she messes up again, we can blame her. But see, I'm not like that, because I actually do hope that the governor, if she did get this, that she does the right thing. I'm sick and tired of hearing all the blame and all this stuff. I'm sick of it. I'm really just sick of it. And I'm sure everybody out there is sick of it. And you know what? Every time I talk to people, they just want us to get along. They just want us to get along. Maybe just this time we just put our differences aside and let's wish each other, you know, and help each other out of this situation. Horrible, horrible, horrible situation. We've been, you know, the reason why I wear the same shirt every day is because I don't like making decisions that are too hard. I just want to make you laugh, give you a little something to chuckle about. But we've been here for nearly 2 weeks to make a decision, and the schools still remain closed. You know, I just wish if I just had one Christmas wish just this time. You know, let's try to work together. You know, I think our people deserve that. Let's take pride in what we do. And think about them first. Think about the kids. Think about those guys who are waiting to go to prom. You know, my son now, he's in Korea, and he tells me how difficult it is when he was going through school with online learning and all that stuff. I'm a parent too, and I just want the best for everybody before they go off and have to do something that might be dangerous to themselves. You know, give these kids the memories. Let them build the memories. Let them go to school. Let's try to get them to open up on time. That's why I did the previous bill, to open up on time, because you know I value memories. I value good time. I value being with friends. Some people value getting that meal from schools. Now we've delayed them. Now they don't have those 2 meals for these 2 weeks. It's a disaster when we don't work together, and it's shameful. That's all. I just want everybody to work together. I don't have anything further, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Mrs. Masi. On the bill, Senator Fisher, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise primarily to associate myself with the remarks of Senator San Nicolas, and I thank him for being an ethical and a moral voice in this body. The last words he was speaking was is the aspect of this unforced error, this created disaster, is food insecurity. The Department of Education, well, there are thousands of kids on this island who have no security in their meals. They cannot be sure that they will be fed today, nor can they be sure they will be fed tomorrow. For that reason, the Department of Education serves per day approximately 28,000 meals. 28,000 meals. If we are closed for 10 days, 280,000 meals have not been served to our children. Thousands of children, as we heard the superintendent say, look forward to coming to school because it is the only regular, safe, comfortable location in many of their lives. At the end of the school day, they return to conditions which are horrendous, some of them, and you would not want the students living in that without some assistance, and that is the magic and the beauty of the public education system. At least we can get our eyes on these kids to see whether or not they are being abused, whether or not they are without water, without electricity, without adequate vision, without adequate health care, without adequate hearing. It's the only opportunity we as a community have to observe these children. And if we can extend assistance to them, help to them, it is not a minor thing for the kids even to miss one day. It is a major thing. The opening of schools was supposed to happen on August 8th. Yearly, we open the schools around the month of August. It's never a surprise to us that the school year will have to commence. And here we are, one day into this created mess of ours, and the schools are still not open, and now we learn that they're probably not going to open until the 15th, and we are scrambling here at D-Day +1 to see if we can unscrew what we have screwed up. It's blindingly clear that the legislature cannot run an agency. The legislature should not run an agency. It is not our business to run agencies. We make policies. Provided they're lawful, the agencies will execute what the law has become, but we are not in the business of choosing paint colors and figuring out whether or not all the kids have number 2 pencils and so forth and so on. That is entirely the job of the agency. We have demonstrated why that is so because of our incompetence, our inability to get these schools open. So I'm not inclined to blame the Department of Education, and I'm not inclined to blame the governor or the governor's office. We picked up this tool and misused it. This has not been a surprise. Anyone could have seen this coming, evidently, except for us here in the 37th Guam Legislature. I full-heartedly join Senator San Nicolas, and I feel that all of the sentiment expressed by my colleagues is sincere, that they do want to get the schools open. I hope that's the case. Let's try a new type of medicine. The governor has come in to try and ameliorate the situation. She has a responsibility for every child on this island, every person on this island. She chose that job. She wanted to be governor, and she is governor. She has chosen that job, and now she wants to, for us to unshackle her hands and allow her to execute, hopefully, dear Lord, hopefully successfully, the opening of schools. Let's do it. We can't. The children are suffering, and we cannot sacrifice. I don't know the truth necessarily of my friend Senator San Nicolas's observation that many of us may be running for higher office. I don't know the truth of that. We all have theories on it, but if that is true, we cannot sacrifice children on an altar of our own political ambition. We cannot do that. We can't ethically do that. We can't morally do that. We have to get the kids fed. We have to give them an atmosphere that is safe, warm, and comforting for them. We have to make it possible for these children to learn. And we need to do it now. Again, this is D-Day +1, and we are again failing. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the opportunity to make those remarks.
Mrs. Usmasi, on the bill, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the bill? We'll take a recess until 2 p.m.